this, please. I think it's a really important AMA that we're gonna have today.
Of course, man. It's already being recorded.
Whoop whoop. Okay, awesome. So Jay, why don't you roll the intro? Then I'll say who I am, and obviously I'll give the floor to our beloved Jacob, and we can start the AMA between me and Jacob.
All right, let's get it on. Hey there, and welcome to the Renovi Show special. Today's Trivia Thursday, and we'll be having the weekly quiz in our Telegram later, guys. So I'm Jay, your host. This is a very special AMA, y'all, as I will be joined by none other than your favorite co-founder, Adonis. And of course, let's all welcome Jacob of Mojo Design.
Hello guys, how are you?
We're doing really, really well, Jacob. So, Jay, I'm gonna be taking over today. Thank you for as always for your help. We will probably need your help at the end with any winners we might have as usual. But today, guys, you know who I am. I'm Adonis. I'm the co-founder of Renovi and Renovi Studios. And you usually hear me talking about, whatever is happening in Renovi, right? But we're changing it up a bit today. And we have Jacob, who is also a co-founder of Renovi, but also has his own Web3 web agency, Mojo Design. And I would like to hear from him who he is, what he's doing with his web agency, but also how he's using Renovi in order to get more clients, provide more to the clients, and so on. So that's the summary of what we're going to be discussing today. So let's begin. Jacob, over to you. Give us an introduction about who you are, man.
Yeah, nice. Thank you guys for having me. It's been a really big pleasure. Excited to see some people and some familiar faces in the room. My story is simple. I was a broke musician, worked 50 hours a week until I discovered coding and design. Was working for many years in America and London. And then basically started Mojo Design in my girlfriend's attic. It started on a laptop with no clients, with absolutely nothing. Learned how to code, learned sales and distribution, started getting clients through inbound and outbound strategies with SEO, with ads, with, cold email and all sorts. But at the core of this, the reason why I did start to code was because of blockchain and me stumbling on one of the most fascinating things that we all love, which is Bitcoin, and then Ethereum, and started following through all the forums. Back in the day, there was no Coinbase, none of that existed. So it was literally scraping through the dungeons to understand how this thing was built, and I was fascinated. Eventually with Mojo, I founded it, started off on my own. Now I've scaled a 5-man team to 6 figures and beyond. And through that, stumbled on to my good friends at Renovi, and then we partnered up and built something amazing together. It's been a really big pleasure actually doing things, but the fundamentals of design and development and monetizing all of that as a craft was a challenge. And everybody can do web development or web design and this and that. So because of my love for blockchain and cryptocurrency and all that, when the metaverse hit, we realized that all of a sudden, you're charging X amount for a website. People were asking me questions on, how do I get into the metaverse? How do I integrate this? How do I, talking terms that were unknown to them, like, Sandbox, for example, Decentraland. And for us, we cracked the puzzle where we were able to work as Mojo, but in partnership with Renovi, to actually create activations for these clients. And some of them were big names, they were celebrities, they were musicians, they were whatever they were, and they were asking us to get in and give them a 3D experience, a different experience that was able to integrate this kind of new trend at the time. So what we were doing was we'd still build the website, but all of a sudden we'd be able to provide them with a gallery, with 3D assets. We'd be able to explain to them what wallets were and blockchain, how to get to the metaverse. And the beauty of it is all these people were creative. So They did understand what 2D files were, what 3D files were, the difference between them, but they had no idea how to get into the metaverse. And that was one of the key monetization points in this partnership, because suddenly you're able to attack creatives in a good way and educate them into how they would get there. So we would act as consultants, implementers, creators, innovators, and help them on that journey. And one of the best ones that we've done, if I remember correctly, was Peter Andre, who is, a very reputable musician who wanted a website, but the fact that we ticketized or helped him sell out all his tickets through the blockchain was such a beautiful experience, because suddenly you could track them, you got an NFT with it, you also got the concert ticket, and it added a ton more value to what otherwise would have been a simple landing page. So through that entire experience with Mojo and Renovi, we were able to innovate in a way by not reinventing the wheel per se, but using existing systems and patching them together to create or bring more value to our ideal clients. And once we cracked that, then with Renovi together, we built that marketplace where we still have the creators and creatives at the heart of what we do, but we're able to activate them, to send them to what we call internally, the promised land. And they get there with Web 2 in combination of Web 3, and all of a sudden, in monetization terms, a website would cost anywhere between 1,000 to 10,000 euros. Suddenly we're bringing in double, triple, quadruple that money, because you gain value. We cracked that value chain and realized that you're no longer price basing. You're doing like you're not basing based. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there. You're not pricing based on a service, but you're pricing based on the value that you bring. And what happened was all of these CEOs, all these creatives were like, well, I don't know how to do this. And suddenly, because you're two steps ahead, you're able to both give them the education, but also the implementation. So I hope that's answered your question one way or another.
Wow, there's a lot to decompose from what you say. I mean, you're on fire. You're going through the topics like there's no tomorrow, and I like that. I like that, and that's because you're seriously passionate about what you're building. So you touch upon your journey, which is so pure and at the same time so powerful, and it shows that your genuine passion about what you're doing and about the space that you're in, and that's what I love when I'm working with you. Okay, which is you seriously care about what you're crafting, and you see it as an art form, even if it's coding and so on. And I love that. And that's why we work together. And that's why you're one of the co founders of Renovi, correct? For sure. And at the same time, I love what you said about Mojo Design, how you have a really interesting product which is needed, right? Like they say in Google, is like, does it pass the toothpaste test? Yes, it does. For all the websites that you create, do they need it on a daily basis, the brands that you create the websites for? Yes, they do. But you have this ability to see into the future, to see what else it might be needed, and to see that, yes, they also need socials and they also need to have a strong presence on socials. But what next? And I think this is the probably the third space. If you take the website as the first space, the social media as the second, maybe the metaverse could be the third space where brands can now interact in, or the metaverse or games. Actually, maybe I say metaverse too much, but it could be games, virtual worlds, whatever you want to use as a word. And that's what I really like. So you figured out that, okay, there's a new different value proposition over here for all the clients that come to Mojo Design, right? And that's the more immersive experiences. And those experiences can go hand in hand with what you're creating. So that's why you're not only helping us build Renovi when it comes to all the tech, but you're also helping us build Renovi Hub and Renovi Studios when it comes to the bespoke activations, when it comes to um, all these clients that you have, to see the value and what they can gain in the metaverse, and to see the returns they can have. So um and that's why, by the way, we were able to create your presence as well in the metaverse, and we were testing it out ourselves. So you have one activation that we've done, which was a virtual billboard that we put in the metaverse. It has all your credentials, so people can see um, Mojo design within the metaverse and see the billboard, and they can go to your website to get more of your services. What is it that you are looking for, okay, when um, you as a client, because you're also a client but you're also the one selling the services, right? What is it that you're looking for when you are within uh, when you talk to Renovi or Renovi Studios for these activations? What do you want to get out of it?
So this is a fantastic question. I think you hit the nail on the head there because you mentioned that this entire game, where I touched on the fact of learning sales and distribution, no matter what creative industry you're in, that is basically from an agency standpoint, and you have the client at the heart of what you do, right? So if the interest of the client, at the end of the day, you make them happy, they're going to refer you elsewhere. You want to give them a lot more than the profit, the money side of things. You want to up your brand reputation and in turn up their brand reputation. And I'm going to take a step back to actually analyze what you've said and break it down in a few steps, because when you have a client and you're a creative, in your mind, obviously, there's a lot of left or right or whatever side of the brain there is that equates to that creativity that's going to get you somewhere. And there's only so much you can do when you have 2D designs, when you've got vectors, when you've got shapes, when you've got illustrations. So the metaverse actually brings that new dimension of 3D and gives you exactly what we're talking about, which is value. And when we break down the equation of value in the eyes of a client, you want them not to buy a service. You want them to experience a transformation. And while you're experiencing a transformation, that's where we touched on what value is. And to break that down, a client has a dream outcome, and that's multiplied by something called the likelihood of achievement divided by time and effort. So what we've done with Renovi in parallel to Mojo is, let's say Mojo will take away the effort and the time and the likelihood of achievement in this do it for you mechanism or framework. But what was missing from the value was that dream outcome, because everyone can build a website, everyone can do an illustration or hire a freelancer or whatever. The missing piece of the puzzle in the
Is it me, guys, or did we just lose
He just
Jacob?
got off.
Jacob, you just cut off, my friend.
Oh no.
Oh no, I'm just texting him as you're speaking. It's like I guess.
Sorry, there we
Jacob, are
go.
you back?
Sorry. Yeah, sorry, somebody was ringing, so the phone stopped.
Oh, that, yeah. Do not
Yeah.
disturb is the best way to do it when you're in these meetings, because it's Twitter has not managed to find a way to not get you cut off. So I think we were left in the value proposition and what you were delivering. So please continue.
Yeah, so what I was saying was that when you add the word metaverse, I know we keep drilling on with it, what happens is you actually take, I'm not sure if I cut off when I was explaining the equation here.
Just after the equation, by the way, just after.
Okay, perfect. So we did hear the equation. So what was missing was the dream outcome element of that equation. And the dream outcome is essentially, everyone can build your website, an illustration, a vector, all of that. Your dream outcome now is heightened on a multitude of levels when you enter the 3D realm. And not just that, it's in parallel with the blockchain, with the interoperability, with all of that. So suddenly you forget service-based pricing. You sell a transformation because they're now able to activate other senses of the body creatively by being immersed in this new experience. Therefore, the effort, the time, the likelihood of achievement remains the same, but the dream outcome of this entire proposition is heightened, you know, 20-fold, because suddenly you're interacting with the blockchain and the assets that you're already used to. So now, when we define the word value and having the customers at the heart of what we do, selling that transformation and executing it, you're giving them so much more than just that 2D website on a server. They're able to interact. And because you touched on the social aspect of the metaverse, you're not just tweeting about it. You're now able to interact within the metaverse in a different realm, in a different dimension, another form of communication. And suddenly, what happens? We activate them, we send them up there, they've got their building and their fancy avatar and they look super cool. They're now interacting with people in a community that is much more loyal than buying your paid ads or spending a shit ton of money trying to get somewhere that is just temporary, because the community within the metaverse and crypto is so tight that you're automatically crossing those barriers because you're going straight from follower to fan to interested party. So those relationships not only benefit you creatively, but they also benefit you in a community level. And that was what the heart of it was, when you're not just selling a virtual gallery or a metaverse experience, you're selling all of these parts that circulate around that when we define value.
100%. And I wanna, you say about the dream, and I wanna decompose what that dream is, right? And what you get as a client, or when you're working with us, is especially with Renovi Hub, because we both believe there's so much value over there. But what that value mean, right? So in my eyes, when I think of Renovi Hub, I'm thinking of accessibility, because I'm thinking of a lot of things, and I'm gonna start it from the beginning. I usually say it's the square space of the metaverse. And what do I mean by that, right? And what do I dream about is, number one, the accessibility and affordability of the platform. You make it a lot more simpler and easier for anyone to come to the metaverse and be engaged in the metaverse. And actually, the engagement within the metaverse is a lot higher. We're talking about minutes and not seconds, like in websites. In addition to that, we try to simplify the experience, right? We don't try to make it really difficult. So you need to have a master's degree in 3D when you are going to have those activations. You have them ready made for you now. And together with Mojo Design, what we can do is we offer a complete solution. You have your website, we integrate the experience that can be on any of the metaverse platforms, if not all of them, and so on. And we also have that customization and personalization. Although we have ready-made designs a lot of the times, we do go over and above in order to have the language of the client that we're working with, which is really important. And as I said before, enhanced engagement and reach, in my eyes, is quite important, because now it's just not just a website. So suddenly it's a video game. Suddenly it's immersive. Suddenly is you're in Decentraland, you're in Sandbox, you're in Spatial. You're playing a game about with your favorite brand, or you're shopping with your favorite brand. So that goes hand in hand with the opportunities for growth and innovation, right? So your brand suddenly becomes a lot more dear to you, a lot more close to you. You feel like you're part of them. You're not feeling like you're simply following them. And of course, that's why the communities are getting born out of this, because you're now part of it, which is all aspects of these virtual spaces, right? That you were creating. And I think that's the value that you're able to provide over and above, and that's why you're really fond of our product and working with us and working together, is because, and I know you as a person as well, is because you are able to provide so much more to your clients, and you really do care about your clients. You make it personal every single time, and I love the way you work like that. So then, let's go to some other questions, right? We talked about the value, but let's talk about monetization. How do you think your clients or any other customers can use both their typical website that you could create, your social media services, but also the metaverse or virtual worlds in order to monetize everything?
So this is probably my favorite question of the day. Because you did touch on reach, you did touch on growth, we did touch on community, but monetization at the end of it, especially in a world where creatives, before social and all of that, were downplayed, right? You're an artist, you're a creator, you're a painter, you're a musician. All these people suffered in my eyes, and being at the core of that, when it came to monetizing their craft. It doesn't matter how many hours you learned or you spent to do video editing, 3D design, playing an instrument, whatever that was. In the older days, people were like, you're just a creative, and you're not in the finance world, you're not in this and that. So when it comes to monetization in this space paired with the blockchain, you're opening so many routes for people to, one, up their prices, enjoy a new service, and sell by what I was saying, which was transformation. Because you're not just selling a website, you're selling an entire experience. And what we found at Renovi and Mojo is that it's the journey that sells. It's the process of getting there that fascinates designers or other CEOs or founders that want to dabble in. It's that element of curiosity where all of a sudden we're in a world where there's AR, VR, mixed reality, metaverse. When you don't understand it, suddenly the value of the service provider is heightened by multitudes because you're now in demand, right? Whereas there's 7,000 web developers that can build your website. You said the Squarespace. Anyone that's not a developer can go and build a landing page or whatever instantly. What we're giving is the education aspect of it when it comes to monetization. We give all of the value out for free, and what happens? People are like, you've given me the hot sauce. I want you now to implement it. So you've given me the sauce. I don't know how to cook the meal. And that is the funnest part. That is the most valuable part when it comes to monetizing these activations, because all of a sudden you're selling the senses, you're selling the experience, you're selling everything that comes with it, as well as the growth, of course, but you're now unique. So, for example, we take one of our recent clients, which is Theo Hendricks, daughter of a really well-known musician. Yes, you can sell concert tickets. Yes, you can sell your paintings, but what do they look like in a virtual gallery that you can now suddenly go and interact and also track? And then you also get a commission. So we're opening another revenue stream, both for us as service providers and also for the creator, where before you would sell a painting once, make $2,000-3,000 or whatever. Now all of a sudden, because we've introduced an NFT, you're getting royalties for every single sale that happens above and beyond for the rest of time. So what better way of monetizing something could you, let's say in the conventional world, you could have used affiliate marketing and all of that and got commissions here and there. This is now tracked and on the blockchain, and you will forever be monetizing again and again. Whereas before, you've lost the painting, you've forgotten who it is, you can't track. And that value is a little bit subjective because, art in this case can be monetized by somebody just saying, this painting costs X. Is there a buyer? Yes. Whereas this way you can justify the progression of the sale as well. And paired with that, what we're finding now doing our research, we're developing that community effect, monetizing different dimensions of the metaverse. Some of you prefer Decentraland, others prefer Sandbox, others want spatial experiences. So now you're able to go, well, you know what? We started on Sandbox, we've built your landing page, yes, we've done the activation. If you want your service to be interoperable, we can shift it to another platform. So now there's another revenue stream within that. And once the people that are immersed in this start to understand the value of each dimension within the metaverse, you're now opening further revenue streams. And you can chat and scream and shout about being in various places, not just in the Web 2, but also various neighborhoods of the metaverse and Web 3. I think I've pretty much answered your question there, Adoni.
Absolutely, and guys, just notice that although I'm usually the metaverse, I'm stuck on the metaverse. Notice how Jacob is your overall aficionado, and he loves everything. So he never stays in the metaverse. He mentioned NFTs, he mentioned blockchains. So he's a more of a holistic approach to the Web 3, whereas I'm usually all about the metaverse and the open metaverse. So I really love that about you, Jacob. And the other thing is, you touch upon a really, really interesting point that when you always have calls together and you talk with clients and so on, it's always about the journey, right? We never stay. We usually start really, really small, and clients come to us, especially with Renovi Studios, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we want to create NFTs." And then we start talking about NFTs, and the passion shows, and we start going into the metaverse and how they can use the NFTs into the metaverse for token gated experiences, for special drops, and so on. So we take them on this journey, and this is the Web 3 journey, and that's what we always do. We show them what is possible. We show them what the actual decentralized dream is, okay, and digital ownership, and so on. And I think what that's what captivates a lot of these brands, and especially the fact that all these kind of the same time capture a new audience that they were never able to tap in before. So I would say we spoke about all the really, really nice stuff about our worlds, but what is your biggest beef, right, with what we're creating? Where do you think there are some challenges? Where do you think we should improve? Where we're not doing a great job in order to captivate more people, in order to bring more clients in order to help more businesses? Where do you think we're falling short in general?
That's a good question. I mean, it can go very philosophical here because what's happening to the way that we're building the Renovi Hub, and I'm happy to see some of the engineers in the room that have helped us as well as part of this discussion. So welcome to you. What is happening is the challenges we're facing is because decentralization empowers all, right? Everybody tries to get a little fair share of the pie. And that can be a great thing. You know, you look at things like Wikipedia that are decentralized and all of these kind of like repos and in the development world, of course, when you're sharing code and things are improved, what's happening is now you get the big dogs coming in, for example, in real estate, and they're trying to monetize within the blockchain realm and disrupting creators. But what we've done is we've taken the aspect of what was a challenge and made it into a solution by simply saying, you know what? I don't have enough as a creator to buy land, but I still want to go to an event in the metaverse. So what I'm doing is I'm breaking down the decentralized elements into, something conventional is renting, for example. But if you look at an e-commerce store in Web 2, you're able to make one purchase and you've bought your item, like Amazon, for example, or any other e-commerce store for any SME. When you're looking at the metaverse and that space with the blockchain, suddenly these prices are sky high. Like in our generation, we can barely afford to buy a house, but you're being told that you can buy a house in the metaverse and it costs more than a real house. And these obviously come with scarcity and all of that. But what we've done is partnered up with the right sets of minds and people in order to fractionalize again the journey and the experience by providing rented opportunities within the metaverse. So what that's doing again is bringing together two revenue generating models, which in Web 2 is e-commerce, the conventional traditional methods of renting in the real estate world, pairing it together and bringing opportunities to rent land. But the complications that happen here are there's a big gap in the education. So when you define your ideal client, who in this case could be an agency founder, a designer, a 3D animator, or whatever, that gap of why there's value in renting, for example, is one thing. And having to bring out content from the social pillars that you mentioned in order to bring them together and show them the value is a challenge that costs a lot of money coming from somebody that's like, oh my God, I don't want this 3D little avatar thing. But once you understand the value, then you're able to monetize. And the other side of it, on a technical basis, is being able to pair together Web 2 and Web 3 with all the security breaches, with all the foundations on a software architecture standpoint, in order to fit in the modern world 3-click buying experience. Whereas in an e-shop, you're able to select the product, check out, and you're out. Suddenly, we're fusing together API calls, we're fusing, the interaction of Web3, transcribing those calls in order to still try to make that seamless experience. And the challenge is, at this exact present moment, I believe that we're not quite there yet when we define the word seamless. So even though in theory the value that we explained in the previous question is there, we've got to overcome the actual seamless experience hurdle. And of course, we're in this as innovators, everybody in this room also understands these challenges. And the cryptoverse rather than the metaverse has had a lot of bad reputation because of that lack of education, wallets being stolen, the security breaches and all of that. So once we circumvent that, then we're getting rid of exchange fees, cross-border fees, this and that, shipping fees, and all that, where companies like Stripe or, EMIs are getting fractions of those costs. We're now then coming to a place where if it's all within the cryptoverse with a tokenized mindset, that the creator is gaining that value and that monetization aspect. The service provider is reaping from it. So I think we're not too far off, but being able to bring in the education for those creators to understand. And if you're with me, please feel free to slap a little emoji so I know that we haven't lost you and that all of this is making sense. We're then in a much better place to serve creators and actually help them monetize even more.
That's what I always say, man. You're so right. Is like we try, the friction points are so many, and we need to minimize them. And that's what I love and I hate about Web3 sometimes is we have so many resources already available, but sometimes we just tend to reinvent the wheel for stuff that they're already out there. For example, for a payment gateway, you could easily use MoonPay to exchange crypto. You could easily use Uniswap. If you're gonna have an activation, if you're gonna have a Web3 hub like Renovi Hub at some point, we shouldn't be reinventing the wheel, but we should use all these platforms as Legos and build on top of them. Because at the end of the day, what we want to create, at least in Renovi Hub, is to allow for everyone to join the metaverse, right? And is to allow for everyone to have the most easy, frictionless user experience. And I love that you see as well, and it's not just me, that sometimes we just make it so difficult for somebody to join, so much lingo, so much BS, part of my French, okay, when you're in the Web3 space where we could be doing stuff a lot easier. Now, I'm going to change a gear. because I know you're also a coach and you're helping other people when it comes to building their own businesses and when it comes to promoting themselves and so on. So tell us a bit about that. I mean, I have one more question after that, and then we can open it to anyone who might want to ask anything. But um, how do you help people? What is it that you help them with as a coach? And how did you find the experience of building your own company? It can your own companies. Sorry, it can help with other people, so those skills can be transferred to others as well.
You asking that. Well, as you said, like I was very passionate as a developer, as a creative myself, as a creator. And in building those businesses, I realized that sales and distribution was a key factor into monetizing your craft. So no matter how good of a developer you were or a designer, if you couldn't monetize that, you were then stranded having amazing work, but no one was buying it. So when I started scaling my team, I realized that, I needed to stop coding, or was coding less and less. And I was becoming a coach for my team. We were talking about systems, about programs, about templates, implementation, and running a business itself had a lot to do with that monetization element. So a lot of other creators, because I have a social presence on LinkedIn and Twitter and whatever, I realized that my ideal target audience were these people, these creatives, and they didn't understand the business of design. So the questions that would come to me, whether they were in the blockchain space or in the Web 2 space or any space, they could have been video editors. They would come and say, I don't know how to write an invoice. How do I get my next client? How do I post content? How do I refine my offer and my market? So because of my experience running multiple businesses, I was able to answer these questions. And I realized that there was another revenue stream for me to actually, my motto is always, I want us all to win together. I want you to win as much as you can. And by having that knowledge, I became a monetization coach essentially, and have over 19 students in this cohort now and whatever. And seeing those creators win and have those aha moments by being able to monetize their craft is something that I truly live by, because the internet has changed the lives of so many, but all these like fake gurus that talk about growth and buying retweets and their engagement pods and whatever are giving you false information. It doesn't matter how big your audience is. You can have 100,000 followers and not know how to monetize. Whereas what we've done with Renovi and Mojo and all of this is scaled multiple 6 to 7 figures with a very small audience, because we could define the market. And once creators start to understand that and they define their audience, they're suddenly in a position to break free from that rat race. And that was kind of my inspiration point here and the reason why I started coaching. I'll keep it at that. The coaching thing is called Modern Maker. You're welcome to check it out, anyone. And then I'm more than happy to answer any questions with you from the audience.
Absolutely. Don't be afraid to shield, man. We're over here for you, and for sure, a lot of the times I feel inspired by your content. I know we're friends, but sometimes I hear your content. I'm like, why did this guy not tell me that before? I've done all the stupid things. But apart from that, my last question is: what are you most excited about the future? What makes you super passionate, about what is to come in general?
So for me, the biggest point that gets me up in the morning is using technology, one, to ease your life and also give you exposure. Based on that last thing that I touched on earlier, which is everyone can go freelance. Everyone can break free from this 9 to 5 rat race. And every creator in the world deserves to make bank if they're taught the same systems. And we're on this planet once, and we deserve the peace. We deserve to work less and earn more. And by understanding these fundamentals, we can get to that promised land, whatever that promised land is for anyone. And it's really important that you have the systems and the frameworks and be able to, befriend the word sales. Don't fear that. And what's happening is in our generation, we have so many tools like that revolve around AI, that help us cut costs, that help us save time. And when we see that fusion, when it comes to, I mean, you know how passionate I am about decentralization and freedom and all of that, paired with AI, we are then not only talking about saving time and stuff, but for me, the best part is that with AI, you're able to actually bring out your tone of voice because AI can help you do something, but you don't want AI to do the work for you. You want them to be your intern that's going to help you get to that desired outcome. And in doing so, you're able to bring out your personality. Like we live in an era of personal brands, and personal brands for me are taught wrong because you can be your own personal brand by helping others win, by monetizing, by actually bringing out your craft and sharing the results of others in exchange for your services, your wins, and all of that. So the most exciting thing I would say is, dabble into technology, get out there, test it out. If you don't learn, you will certainly learn by doing something in there, or at least you'll have the knowledge and the trajectory of where these things are going. And having that open mind and being open to that means that you have an adaptive mindset.
I like that. I like that a lot, man. Thank you so much for your time, by the way. Woo! And now it's time. I think we have 4 questions in the Telegram. But first, if somebody from the audience over here would like to raise their hand and speak, we'll be more than happy for you guys to go first. If not, then I can continue with the 4 questions that you have in our Telegram channel, uh, and we can take it from there. So while we're waiting for everybody over here, we'll go with a question from Will. Jacob is on fire, obviously. Loving the vibes, gentlemen. Thank you very much, my friends. In the context of crypto and the metaverse, what will be the most challenging obstacle for Renovi to conquer in the year of 2023? Um, Let me start by going first, and I say what what the most challenging thing is the narrative. A lot of people think that the metaverse is dead, and I think it's because obviously the news around the metaverse or the media, they're really quick to say that Meta or Facebook um, didn't succeed in what they thought they would do for the metaverse. So changing that narrative is quite difficult, but it's not impossible. I think what we need to do is show some really interesting activations and experiences within the metaverse, increase the numbers of the people that use these decentralized applications, open metaverses, such as Decentraland or Sandbox or Spatial, and the numbers are slowly creeping upwards for sure. So I think it's changing that narrative, in my opinion. What about you, Jacob? What do you think?
So, I mean, you pretty much hit the nail on the head. For me, it's also understanding the intersection because right now a lot of people are saying, let's niche down, let's find our niche, let's find our audience. I think what's happening with all of these tools, especially as Web3 is starting to marry Web2 and vice versa, we're now lying at an intersection of interests. This whole Twitter Spaces is based on being at the intersection of Web 2 and Web 3, especially for the creative audiences. When we understand that, that challenge then will bring new sets of problems that will bring new technology and new things to solve. So I think, being at the forefront of that innovative um, spectrum is what's going to help other people thrive. And that comes with, one of the most basic things that people do in any business is finding your audience and asking them the questions, asking them what they want. Without asking, you won't be able to find those solutions. And what's happened now, especially with the internet, is we're able to, with a simple Twitter handle, get all the feedback that we need. And I would encourage people in this room as well um, that have asked these questions or have more questions, ask us or tell us what it is you want to see, And those will be the key pillars into the future of Renovi and beyond.
Really, really well put, man. Thank you so much. I fully agree with you. So, going into more questions from Zach. Aside from the endless possibilities that anyone can do inside the metaverse, what are your fears that come along with it? How will you be able to adapt to the rapid changes the metaverse has to offer? So, I think fears, when it comes to fears, I'll tell you what my fears are. I see a lot of the platforms that say they're going to be the metaverse and they're going to offer higher graphics or the better metaverse from the other solution, and I think they're missing the point. That's my biggest fear. I think a lot of the platforms say I have the better graphics and I have better graphics than the previous person. But it's never about the graphics. It's always about the experiences you're gonna have within that virtual world. It's the experiences that you're gonna have in Sandbox, in Spatial, in Decentraland, and so on. I don't think the graphics are the hindering thing or that stops us, and that's my biggest fear. I think they're missing the point. I mean, for example, look at Roblox and how many activations are within Roblox. And Roblox has, for the most part of it, basic graphics. So I will say for us to adapt, I mean, Renovi, what it's doing is it's offering 3D assets for every single metaverse that is out there. And that's what we want to do. We want to be able to provide solutions for all the metaverse platforms. Apologies. So that's how we adapt. Jacob, would you like to add anything on it, or we go to the next question?
Yeah, I think one little cherry on the top is probably there's no or less developers, or if there is, great in the room, is to always be on the forefront of these changing technologies. Because when we did start Renovi or Mojo or all of these, we were coding in a certain way. We had certain frameworks. In the period of less than a year, we've already pivoted because we have clients at the heart of what we do to actually make that seamless experience. And whether that's jumping from a JavaScript framework or deterring Web3 for a certain element of that because we want that seamless experience, we have customers at the heart of what we do. So if we have to change technology, we will. If we have to make a tweak to adapt to that ever-changing landscape, we will, because otherwise you get left behind. And what we're trying to prove as a group, and everybody should, is the security of your client. We don't want anybody's funds to go missing or all of that. So what we're doing is we're having security as our utmost consideration when we're thinking of these adaptations as well, and making sure that we have to follow the trends, we have to follow those updates in the decentralized universe, so that way we are patching, we are growing as these transformations happen.
Really well put. Really well put, man. Okay, crypto with a Q. I'm not sure if this is a question or more of a crypto is always trying to find the most difficult questions to find a way to stop me from answering them. I think that's his plan, man. What are your thoughts on AI already having a paper on roughly reading people's thoughts via brain signals? This will be huge in the metaverse. So, in my opinion, phew, that's really interesting. You see what Neuralink is already doing with brain signals as well. So, from Elon Musk. So, I will say, look, if they're able to read our brain signals at some point and we can connect that to the metaverse to have more interactive experiences without any humans being harmed in the way, just kidding. That would be amazing. It means, in my opinion, your experiences, your games are becoming a lot smarter, and your interactions can vary now instead of having simple interactions with the non-playable characters while you're playing around or walking around or looking at an activation from a brand. I think there was a really interesting article about Nvidia and using AI with non-playable characters on on how they can perform within games and how they can make them really interesting. I will suggest that everybody who's interested in AI goes and read about it because it's definitely revolutionizing the way we deal in the metaverse. Um, Jacob, would you like to add something over here?
I mean, I think it's a really, really good question because neuroscience is also evolving. And for me, the most fascinating thing is if we can make our thoughts interoperable, then we're going into some crazy black mirror shit because the human brain as sapiens can comprehend information differently. And I always look at design, especially on this topic, as a snapshot in time, as an imagination of the creator. If I can suddenly use neuroscience and AI to formulate images, I mean, look at technology like Midjourney and how close it's already getting to. The only thing that these things don't have is emotion yet. Uh, so I think pairing together
Yet.
all of these, we're going to be in a very interesting space. And then I always have a competitive side here. The more variables you bring to that competition creatively to creators, the funner the game gets.
Really, really nice. And the final question that we have over here from Ruth Trellen, I hope I'm saying that correctly. I know this is ironic, but is the metaverse creating a gap in human interaction? Is the metaverse for the antisocial? Love this question. Okay, so I believe the metaverse is not for the antisocial. The metaverse is for more social experiences while you're browsing the internet. And I'll explain. When you are shopping for clothes, when you are reading on Twitter, or when you are on any other website like YouTube, devouring content, I don't think that's the most social, interaction over there, minus the Twitter probably. So what happens is it makes the experience more immersive, more interesting to you rather than simply two-dimensional. I see it as a three-dimensional. I see it as enhancing what you already have. So I would say, in my eyes, it's not for the antisocial, but it's for making those social experiences, those sorry, those interactions which you have with the internet more interesting. Now, if you're already antisocial, it's not going to help you more, it's not going to help you less. Okay, I think it's going to continue being the same thing. If you're social, you're going to find a way to be social in the metaverse. If you're antisocial, you're going to find your way to be antisocial in the metaverse. I think that is up to us. So I would say, um, who knows? I think it's not the metaverse problem if you're antisocial. I think it can actually help in my eyes, but that's according to each person. Jacob, over to you.
I always love these questions because they get you thinking. But at the end of the day, we are characters, right, in our own little real land. And it all, I mean, you can be glued to your Twitter screen and be antisocial and not go out. If anything, the metaverse is bringing you another realm. But obviously, it has to come with human control and human design and human, interactions. It all depends on you and what you make of that. Like, the same goes for any social media platform or anything. If anything, it's just another layer within that. And yes, you can get carried away because it's fascinating, but we're grown up to the console era where you can be glued to a PlayStation or an Xbox or whatever. So I think it's the same kind of mindset, and knowing where to draw the boundaries is where it's at.
Really, really, I love the answer, man. I love it. So that was the final question. Then, Jacob, over to you, man. Which one was your favorite question? And then after that, give us some closing remarks.
So for me, obviously, as a techie, AI is a big thing. So crypto with a Q. You are the man of the show today. Because what happens is, I'm always a firm believer that innovation comes with technology, and we've come this far. If you look,
I think we lost Jacob again. Somebody's calling him. So give him a couple of seconds and he's going to be back.
there
Jacob,
we go.
there
There we
you
go.
go.
There we go. the way that we've been able to interconnect together because we've taken innovation. Like, think of companies like Airbnb, for example. You fractionalize renting experiences. You've told five-star hotels to go fuck themselves, basically, because of technology. So being able to immerse yourself within AI and use it to innovate, to ideate, especially for content creators and beyond, we're in a position where if you have the right mindset, you are in a much better place to thrive, but don't let it take over you. You use it like as your intern, which is the motto of that question. So thank you so much, Crypto with a Q, for raising that. I think that's my final remark, unless anybody wants to say something or ask anything else.
Awesome. I love it, man. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time. I just wanted to bring to everyone's attention that you're also the co-founder of Renovi. You're usually behind the scenes, always coding, always making what we have over here a lot better. So you're the unsung hero, and that's why we wanted to have you over here for um, what you do for us and also showcase what you do for others. So yeah, that was probably my favorite AMA today, to date, and I've thoroughly enjoyed it. So thank you very much, Jay. Over to you, my friend.
All right.
Jay or
That
Jacob?
was so epic, man. Thank you so much, Jacob, for joining us today. So, everyone, thanks again for joining us today for our Renovi show. And it's time to announce some exciting news, guys. So, every week, we'll be bringing you new and thrilling challenges, giveaways, and exclusive sneak peeks. Also, be reminded that you'll only know the winners via our weekly AMA, so make sure you don't miss out. So, for our engagement contest, first place goes to Will from Connect Media. Second place, Roof Trellon. And third place, Prince. Congratulations. And for our invites contest, first place, Lakers. Second place, Neeson. Third place, Z69. Congratulations, guys. And for our meme contest, first place goes to at Wayuloni11286. Second place, at Web3Genius1. Third place goes to at Naya Ang Naya. Ang Yana. I'm sorry if I read that. I'm sure you guys will be so proud of the winners today, Adonis, since I selected the memes myself.
No problem at all. You're more than welcome to select the memes yourself, my friend.
All right. So, guys, there will be an announcement today. So, regarding our invites contest, there have been some reports from our community that some users or participants have been actively using bots and other abuses. So, we have come to a decision to implement a strict rule. I have posted the full rules in our Discord, so you may check them out. And the most important rule is that the members should be at least level 4, and I will conduct an attendance check every week, 1 day prior to the AMA. So, should the participant fail to meet the said requirements, he or she will be disqualified. So, that's it for today, Adonis. Any final words from you?
Yeah, I was gonna say thank you very much, Jacob, for coming to this AMA, and thank you to everyone who joined us. And have a wild day, man. Have a wild day to everyone.
All right. Good night, everyone.